Hello BookTube, my name is Carrie and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my February TBR. First, I would like to stipulate that if you hear little pitter patters or dog groaning in the background, it's because my dog Maggie is right under the camera. Whenever I film, she likes to be right in front of me. Also, you're probably going to hear the heating turning on and off a lot because I'm currently in the track of the blizzard that's been going on. So it's very cold and my heating has been switching on and off pretty frequently today. So yeah, apologies for the background noise. Also, there's probably going to be some snow plows going through like the neighborhood, which you might hear as well. Par for the course with the weather. But nevertheless, I have some great February reads planned. First, I'm going to go over what I'm currently reading. I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is a thriller slash horror novel, which is a genre that I don't read from very often. But that's not because I don't enjoy them, it's just because I tend to gravitate more towards literary fiction. That's something I'm kind of trying to challenge with this because I love thriller TV shows, horror TV shows. I recently watched this really good TV series called Archive 81 that I really enjoyed, and that kind of pushed me to want to pick up something similar because the show is about this apartment building where some nefarious activity is going on, very similar to Lock Every Door, where this woman, she ends up being hired by this apartment building manager to stay in this vacant apartment for a few months due to some rules with like the building and having to have someone inhabit the place even if the owner is not physically there. And slowly but surely the girl realizes something sketchy is going on here. I will say that I am finding it a little bit predictable, but I am still really enjoying it. I really like the audiobook narrator, who completely slips my mind currently. For the audiobooks that I'll talk about in this video, I will list them in the description down below because always really appreciate the narrators and their amazing performances. That's my audiobook that I'm currently listening to, and I'm currently reading No God But God, The Origins, Evolution, and Future of Islam by Reza Aslan. This is a nonfiction book that's about pre-Islamic Arabia that then examines the influence of Islam as it spread throughout the Arabian Peninsula and into other countries. And then it examines the Shia Sunni split and modern interpretations of Islam and kind of the future of where Islam is kind of going. This is the updated version that I believe was printed in 2011, 2012. So I believe that it does eventually address the Arab Spring, but I'm not 100% sure. This is one that I started actually in January. I haven't finished it because it is a very dense read. I don't know if you can see, but I have a ton of tabs in here. I'm currently about 60% of the way through. The last like 100 pages are footnotes, but it's such an interesting read and it's one that's definitely outside of my comfort zone. I don't read a lot of nonfiction about religion, but this was really interesting. I'm gonna have a lot of thoughts about this in my wrap up for the month for sure, and really looking forward to finishing it. So now on to the remaining books on my February TBR. I have a lot of books to show you. I do not plan on getting to every single one of these books. How I pick my TBRs is that I go through my shelves, pick off around like 10 to 15 books that I might be feeling for the month. Then through the month, I pick from that stack what books I'm feeling and go from there. So there's a lot of books in this TBR. I understand it's ambitious. I probably will not get through all of them, but these are the hopefuls for the month. So this month I kind of have three themes to my reading. The first of which is Black History Month, which I have a number of books set aside for. Then I also have a like love month stack with like romance books that I'd like to get to. And then the last one are just books that have been on my shelves for a while that I'd like to get to this month, but I don't necessarily know that I will get through those because those are kind of less of a priority for me for this month. So I'm going to start off with the books for my Black History Month TBR. The first of which is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This is the first of 7 autobiographies that Maya Angelou wrote over the course of her life. This one is specifically about her childhood, and I haven't read any of her autobiographies. I actually had this on my shelf for a number of years and did not realize it because I had moved them whenever I was moving homes and did not realize that I still had them in like a separate part of my house until I was recently talking with one of my friends on my Bookstagram, who she read the second volume and we were talking about it because I was like, oh, I've only really heard a ton about her first. She said that her second has been her favorite so far. She's starting the third. And I was like, oh yeah, the first one, oh, I can't remember the name of it. And then she was like, oh, it's Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I was like, wait, I think I have that book. So I went on this huge scavenger hunt to finally find it. This beautiful edition nonetheless that thank God has maintained perfect condition. But through that whole process, that friend of mine told me that she narrates the audiobooks. So I think that I'm actually going to read this one via audio. But yeah, I'm so excited. I remembered that finally because I've been wanting to read Maya Angelou for years. Next, I have Sula by Toni Morrison. And this is Toni Morrison's second novel. Her first was The Bluest Eye, which I read back in 2020. And originally, the friend that I read The Bluest Eye with, she and I wanted to read through the rest of Toni Morrison's works in 2021 in publication order. Problem with that was I had a crazy year in 2021, so I could not do that. This year, we're gonna try to read one of her books every other month, starting in February, and this was our pick because it's the second book. So I'm really looking forward to this. I love Toni Morrison's writing style, and I cannot wait to read another book of hers. I believe this one examines the friendship between two women and how that changes over the years. So really, really excited for this one. Next, I have The Last Children of Mill Creek by Vivian Gibson. This I talked about in my winter book haul. This is actually a local history of the Black communities within the St. Louis area, which is where I grew up. I haven't read a lot about St. Louis history, specifically during this time the author was growing up, where it was a heavily segregated city, which has had an influence on the development of the city now, like 40 years later. So this one has a much more special place in this TBR than the other books because this is directly about the community that I grew up in, and I'm so thankful that my local bookstores had this book. Next, I have Homie by Danez Smith, which is the author's, I believe, third poetry collection. I've read their second, which was one of my favorites of 2021. Absolutely loved it. That's what led me to get this one. I thought originally that their second collection was their first collection. Didn't realize that there was a one before Homie. So I ended up getting Homie, and then I was like, oh wait, there's one from earlier that I need to now go back to. Regardless, I loved their second collection. Beautiful poetry. And I believe that this collection is all about the dynamics of friendship, which I think is a really interesting theme for a collection. So really looking forward to diving into this one. And the next one kind of goes along with Homie because it is Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This is the story of a Jamaican British woman who she has lost her boyfriend. She is getting kicked out of her house because of this ex-boyfriend, and she feels like she's being constantly overlooked at her job. So she really turns to her friends for help on what to do with her life and how to kind of navigate what she wants to do and where to find a place for herself to get it all together. And I've heard like universal praise for this, both online in the book community, but also offline from numerous friends of mine who have read this and absolutely loved it. It feels like just one of those like mid-20s books where the character is like figuring out what she wants for her life. The last physical book that I have to talk about is Stay With Me by Bámi Adébáyọ. And this takes place in Nigeria, where a married woman is having issues with her husband because they are unable to have children. And I believe it's his family are pressuring him to take a second wife, and he is now like really considering it. And it's this examination of how she feels about this situation, both in regards to her relationship with her husband, her relationship with their family, and this pushing of a second wife, but also with her fertility issues and concepts of motherhood and societal expectations of women in Nigerian families. And I actually read a book in January called If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha that similarly focused on these issues from the perspective of South Korean women. So I feel like this might be an interesting like comparison and contrast of like different societies, seeing how different places around the world tackle these issues through their literature. Now there are a few audiobooks that I'd like to listen to as well. The first of which is Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo. I previously read Girl, Woman, Other. I really loved it. It's one that I would like to reread, but Mr. Loverman, it's about this elderly man who he and his wife have been married for like 40 years. The whole time though, she knows that he is having a gay relationship with one of his best friends, and then something happens that like brings this, I think, like to light to like either the wider scope of the family or to other people, and they're kind of like dealing with that. I've heard pretty resounding praise for this book, and I do really like Bernardine Evaristo's writing style. So if I end up enjoying this one, I would maybe like to slowly work my way through her works as well, because she just is such a talented writer. And then I'd also like to listen to Ace of Spades by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. These two students are like vying for like valedictorian, but someone is exposing secrets of theirs in order to like hush them up. and it just sounds really interesting. I think it's either a duology or a series now, but I've heard really good things about it. And then the last one is a nonfiction, which is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. This is about the Great Migration north by former slaves in the South. Yeah, I don't actually know a lot about this portion of history, mainly because American school systems don't teach you about most aspects of history that are important to be more representative of other people in history. So this is one where I think I might take like the last 2 weeks of the month and listen to this slower. I'm also considering picking up a physical copy so that I can like annotate and make notes, because I have a feeling I'm gonna have a ton of notes on that one. So now on to the portion of the TBR that is about romance. First of which is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have heard such good things about the Brown Sisters trilogy. I need to read it. This is the one that I've had on my shelves the longest. It's about this girl who gets saved by this security guard in her building from like a fire, and they go viral, so they like fake date, but then they fall for each other, and I am about it. I need to read this. Next I have Hana Khan Carries On by Uzma Jalaluddin. I've talked about this in my haul. This takes place in Toronto, where her father runs a halal restaurant and she helps him with running the business, but also she aspires to be a radio host, and she runs this secret podcast that has like a pretty substantial fan following, and she starts to exchange emails with this fan of her show who she really connects with. And then simultaneously there's this new halal restaurant that's moving into town, and her family is like very worried about that, and there are some other complications with her family dynamic. I really enjoyed the author's first work, I Shot Last. Really want to read this one. I was gonna plan to read it in January, but ended up just not happening. So I think that since this has a romance element to it, I'll be more motivated in February. Next I have The Love Con by Sarissa Glass. Can we take a minute for this adorable cover? I am obsessed with it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is about a cosplay competition where the main character, who is named Kenya, she wants to win the competition, but in order to win it, you have to have a partner. And so she enlists her best friend to pretend to be her like romantic partner to win this competition. But her best friend has had the secret crush on her for years, and it all comes to a head at this convention. And I'm so excited for this. This just sounds so cute. Oh, I cannot wait to read that. Then I have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This has been circulating all over the online book community. I have seen this book everywhere. I have seen universal praise for this book everywhere as well. I believe the sequel comes out this month, so it's popping up even more than usual. So it's about this PhD candidate who is obsessed with her work. Her friends keep giving her grief about her love life, and so she tells them that she's seeing this professor from her work who is kind of an asshole, and somehow he agrees to like fake date her. Yeah, I've heard really good things about this. It sounds like a really cute story. With the second book coming out, I was like, well, if I like it, then at least I can continue with it because I'll like be invested in the series. The final book is not really romance, but it's got love in the title, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is a nonfiction book that is a collection of, I believe, essays about this author's experiences, just kind of finding her place in the world in her 20s and figuring out like friendships, how to be an adult, job stuff, like all different aspects of being an adult that are really important and that sometimes you have to figure out on your own, and it's really frustrating and scary. And so she wrote a book about it, and I've heard really good things about this. I think I mentioned in my book haul that one of my friends got this for me because she said that this was a really insightful book. So you probably think I'm a little bit crazy by now, because I still have 3 books that I would like to read this month. These are the 3 that I might read as like a break between books, so that like I'm not constantly reading like the same genre over and over again. But the reason that I'm including them in this is because they're books that have been on my shelf for a long time. The first of which is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I have no idea what this book is about. I have avoided spoilers for the past like decade that this book has been on my shelf. Yeah, don't know anything about it. I've been told by so many people that I have to read it though. I am determined to get to this one this month. Hell or high water, this will be a book that I finish, but I just don't know when. Next I have Shadow Me by Tahira Mafi. This is a YA fantasy that was really big when like YA fantasy had like its golden age. However, recently a lot of people that I follow on Goodreads have been reading this for the first time and really enjoying it. And so I was kind of in a fantasy mood last month. I wanted to read it then. Regardless, I am looking forward to this one and would like to read it somewhat soon. And the final book of this very long TBR is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which, if you'll notice, I have tabs in this. I read like the first 50 pages of this right before COVID happened. I left it at work the day before our last day. I didn't get it back for 6.5 months. So I have no memory of what I read. I remembered I was enjoying it, but I just had no desire to pick it up again. For some reason, it feels like a February book. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to get to it this month. It is a short one, so I think it's doable. Okay, so that is the very long list of books that I would like to read this month. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you're planning to read in February. And thank you so much for watching. Happy reading. Bye!